Hey friends, I wanted to make this quick video to help all of you that are new to the podcast as well as the Discord channel on how to use TTS as well as actually how to get TTS working to play Disney Villainous online. So, what is TTS? TTS is this little game called Tabletop Simulator right here. This is already inside of my library. I have already purchased the game. Um, Now, if you have never used Steam before and completely Steam, newbie right here, what all you need to do is go up here and just type in Tabletop Simulator. It should be one of the first things that pops up. I'll go ahead and click it on it here to show you folks what's happening. And you're going to see this right here. I already got all this information going on and stuff. You'll see that it's greatly positive and all that stuff. So don't be afraid that you're buying a piece of software that's not good. To let you know what Tabletop Simulator is, if you haven't actually purchased it yet, is that it's a tool that allow you to basically play your tabletop games like you normally would in real life through the power of your computer and with friends over the internet. What's really cool about this is that many modders have built mods to allow you to play all sorts of your favorite tabletop games through Tabletop Simulator. Now, you might notice that there are some DLC expansion stuff down here. You do not need to purchase any of this stuff in order to play Villainous. These are some games that certain publishers have worked with developers to actually get a particular mod of their game onto Tabletop Simulator. Disney Villainous is not that, but we'll go more into how the mod stuff works later in this video. Now, you'll need to purchase Tabletop Simulator. You just need to buy yourself one version of it. And the nice thing, too, about it is that it works on all different operating systems. I actually am using a Mac right here. I know most of you folks are probably Windows people. I'm a Mac nerd, but it's nice. So regardless of what operating system you're on, you will be able to use it. It usually runs for about $20. Sometimes during a big sale, you might be able to snag it for about 10. But it's kind of up to you. Kind of depends on how bad you really want to play Villainous. So, but there you go. Once you purchase the game, I can't purchase it again. Well, actually, yeah, I don't think I can. I can add it to cart. There you go. So once I added my cart and purchase it and all that stuff, once you're done, you can go back to your Steam library right here, and you just click Library up in your Steam application, and you'll see that Tabletop Simulator is right here. That's where you need to go. So, once you've done that, let's talk about actually how to get Disney Villainous into your game before you even boot up the application. So, just kind of as a general rule of thumb with any of the games you might want to play, you need to go click on this little button in the Tabletop Simulator page on Steam called Workshop. Now, what the Workshop is essentially a place where all the mods for the game exist. You can already see there's some popular mods right here that people are creating, and you can actually look up by different things. All you need to do is type in Disney Villainous up here. I don't think I spelled it right. No, I did not. Of course. Disney Villainous. Try again. There we go. There we go. Let me try to find it. Here we go. So you're going to want to pick out this mod right here. It's Villainous plus Wicked to the Core and all the expansions. You might notice that there's some fan expansions up here if you've never used it before. That is because some friends in the Discord, as well as my lovely co-host Headmaster Ditto, has actually contributed to creating some custom characters that actually exist within this mod and actually work within the engine of the mod, which is pretty nice. Once you've done that, you just need to click on this little arrow down here. You'll see it if I look at one of these other ones. You'll see that there's a plus icon when I hover over the particular mod. Once I click on the plus, that means I'm subscribed to the mod, which means it's automatically going to be installed into my game from the get-go. So as long as you have it checkmarked like that, and you'll actually see too right here, it shows that I have it checkmarked, you're good to go. But this is the particular mod that you're looking for. Now, once you've done that, you're basically all set. One thing you'll need to make sure that you do is that you'll need to make sure that you have Steam running, at least on the Mac side, because Steam's servers have to be running in order for you to actually play with online with Tabletop Simulator. You can still boot up the application like right now, how I have it right here, without Steam running. You just won't be able to play with anybody online. You can only do stuff like by yourself in a single player type of setting. So once you've done that, you can either click on the desktop app right here that I have if you have that set up, or you just click play, and then you're good to go. It's going to take a second for it all to boot up. There we go. And then you're in Tabletop Simulator. So, so this is how it all works. Let's just talk about creating a game in Tabletop Simulator with Disney Villainous. So, depending on if you want to have multiple people or if you want to be by yourself, you'll click on one of these. I usually do multiplayer, and then right here is your server name that you can create, and this is your password. This is essentially the information that you need to provide to your friends personally when you want to set up a server that you want to play with other people. They will need this information in order to get there. You can set how many players that you want to have in the room. So that way, let's say you are trying to invite a bunch of people, but you're trying to limit how many people are allowed to be in the room at once. You can set the limit. I usually keep mine around 3 or 4, but you can do whatever you want. Once you've done that, you just click Create Server, and it's going to take a second. And you'll notice that I actually have a bunch of mods here as well. So what I'm going to do from this screen right here is that this is my game screen. And when I go to the workshop portion right here, I'm going to try to find Villainous right here and click on Villainous. Now, if you already have a bunch of mods already in TTS, you just need to click on Workshop, and then you can go find it here. Because when I've been adding some more mods to my TTS, I pushed Villainous back because I just added so much new stuff. And so I'll need to click on that in order to get there. Once I click on it, it's just going to load it up. It might take a second depending on how fast your machine is and how powerful it is, because it is loading all these different assets. There we go. It's all loaded. Perfect. So let's talk about some basic Tabletop Simulator things. Your WASD keys are your move around keys like so. So that's how I move my camera around. I can also use my mouse to move around and stuff. And if I want to change the camera, I just need to hold down right click, and then I can rotate like this. So if I want to get different angles or different perspectives of the board, that's what I can do. I've been doing this for a while, so if it seems like I'm doing this pretty naturally, it's just because I've just been playing a lot of Disney Villainous this way. Now let's talk about some other things really fast. So right now you'll notice that my player right here is in this particular area. If you want to change your current position of your player, just click on your profile, click on change color, and you'll notice that now there's a bunch of different colors that are available on the table. You want to click one of the ones on the outside. Don't click the ones here, or else you're going to get yourself all confused. So let's say if I want to change from white to blue, because blue is my favorite color. There you go. My position is now over here. This will help when you're trying to place out your hands and like position players and all that good stuff once people start joining in. Now, let's talk about some things that we're going to see here. So first thing you're going to see is this is the instruction booklet. This instruction booklet is from Wicked to the Core. So it has pretty much most of the updated stuff in it. The only thing I believe it does not have updated in it is talking about having the Fate token for 4 to 6 players. It still says 5 to 6. It does contain all the frequently asked questions stuff, and it actually has most of the stuff that you probably will need from the get-go, which is pretty nice. All you gotta do is just click on this arrow to go back and forth between the pages, and you'll be good to go. On top of that, you'll see that there's this power tokens thing right here. So this is actually a bag in Tabletop Simulator that allows me to basically click on it and drag out tokens. You can play like this if you want to play the classic way, but there is a nice little nifty thing that was added to the mod that actually I personally requested. That will be super cool, which I'll show off. Here's the Fate token. So when you're playing with more people, just pass this around. All you gotta do is click on it, hold it, and then you can drag it to the player. And then, thanks to Eldon, the modder of this, actually places some instructions for how some things will work. So take a villain selector, which is this board, and drag it near your area. So what you're going to do is that take this board. Uh-oh, I think I did it wrong. Nope, there you go. You got to take the board from the corner. Oh, come on. There we go. Take it from a corner, and then drag it to where you want to play. So let's say I'm going to play over here. Now, what this board essentially acts as right now is a character select screen. It has all the characters that are currently in the game, at least the core set, that you might want to play with. All you got to do is then just click on a character, and then all their components will appear. So let's say, for example, we'll do Prince John because Prince John is the most, basic. Here you go. You got all the components to the character. You have a nifty little action symbols guide right here. All that stuff. We have, what is it, Prince John's guidebook right here, and similar to the instructions, and it spawns for every player. There are different villain guide. Now we have our main villain deck, and we have our fate deck right here. And the new thing you'll notice is that there's this little power counter up here. Now, what I had suggested, just for the sake of making it a lot faster to move, you can click on this by using left click to increase the power. Well, if you click on right click, you'll decrease the amount of power that you have. So you can use this rather than to have to keep dragging tokens. Just simply click on this to increase and decrease the amount of power that you have. So to repeat, left click to increase, or right click on it to decrease, which is pretty nifty. Now, when it comes to your decks, obviously you were like, well, how do I shuffle decks? Highlight over it, so see how the deck is highlighted white right now, and just mash your R key. That will instantly shuffle your deck. And you can do that with both of these decks as well. Once you are ready to go, you simply just tap a number on your keyboard equal to the amount of cards that you're supposed to draw. So let's say 4 cards. And now you'll actually see that my cards are visible. Now the nice thing too is that you'll also notice that what's going on is that you have your cards out here. Your opponents can't see this because this is part of your actual hand that you can like interact with instead of interacting from here. This is kind of just like a shortcut way for, let's say, if I'm looking at another player that exists over here, I could still have access to my hand as I look, and then I can come back here and look at my personal hand. And I can play these cards either from here, or I can play them from here. So both places are a-okay to play cards. Now, playing cards is just like what you think it is. It is you click and hold on the card with the left click, and then you just drag the card wherever you want it to go, which is pretty nifty. And there you have it. Now, sometimes what you may need to do is you may need to have a card and flip it over, maybe because you're trying to put it back in your deck, or maybe it's something like you're playing with Yzma, and you need to flip the cards back in. To flip a card, you just highlight over the card like this. You can even be clicked on it, and you just hold or hit the F key, and that's to flip the card, which is pretty nice. Now, let's say, for example, I play my turn. These cards have gone away. And if I need to draw more cards, I just need to hit the number of the amount of cards I need to draw. So obviously the first time you set up your hand, you're going to be drawing 4 cards, so you'll hit the 4 key. Now here, I'm just going to hit 2. And I drew 2 cards instead, which is pretty nice. Now, for some cards or some actions, it's kind of a nice little, gesture that, let's say, maybe you're playing with a player who doesn't have a mic when you're playing with other players. If you're going to be doing stuff like Fate, you can use the tab button, and what tab will do is it allows you to actually point out different things on the board. Eventually, these arrows are going to go away. But it allows you to basically call out what you are doing. So that way, let's say like a player doesn't have a mic and I'm trying to show them what order the actions I'm taking. I can do this to like show them I'm about to fate them. The reason why I'm suggesting this is that especially if you're playing against characters like Yzma, Scar, or Ratigan who have condition cards that go against fate, you kind of want to let your players without mics know what you're about to do. Because it's just a nice courtesy thing that you should do. Now, one thing I'll also keep in mind is that when you are playing these cards, you'll notice that, see this blue square that's appearing? That's currently in my hand. When you're stacking cards, let's say at a location, you'll need to be a little wary about your hand because your hand is going to appear right below where your board space is. So be a little cautious because what's going to happen is, let's say I put the card here, that card's going to go back into my hand. So make sure that you space your cards out in a way that it's not going to affect your hand. So that way you don't end up having to go back and forth like this and get a little frustrated by that. But there you have it. Now, some other things too, I'll point out. So one thing, let's say that you picked Prince John and you're like, oh wait, I don't really want to play Prince John anymore. And you pull out another villain board, and then let's say I'm going to pull out Ratigan so I can point some stuff out. You'll notice that my position on the table actually changed. So my hand is no longer going to be over here. So you'll need to be careful if you're pulling out another board to get rid of where your current hand is. Let's say if you're trying to show something off to another player, your hand may disappear, and then your hand over here is going to actually now be visible. So be a little careful. Now, when it comes to some of the actions that you could do, things like flipping, so like with the rat token with Ratigan, if I hit the F key, that also works like that as well. Also works with stuff like this, the action symbols reference tile right here. And I could also do it with an entire deck. So instead of doing it with one individual card, I could do it with an entire deck if I need to. Let's say if I'm like playing Pete and I'm trying to put cards at the bottom, it might be a nice nifty way of trying to go about doing that. So I think in general, that is most of the main core stuff that we can talk about with setting up your game of Villainous and Tabletop Simulator. Now, one thing I don't want to gloss over is the custom expansions. So the custom expansions basically kind of work the same way as the main villain board. The only difference is that it's for each one of these individual sets based off of the people who designed them, and they still work the same way. Another thing, too, is that let's say that you're still trying to figure out your position after you already drug out the board. Make sure that you don't click on a character. So see how I'm like it's hovering over and saying the Horned King, Madame Medusa, and Bill Cipher. I want to make sure that when I actually want to drag this around, that the selector itself is highlighted in that white outline. So that way I can drag it around and then choose a different space. And it works the same way, too. If I click on this, let's say I click on Bill Cipher, my name is still going to change to that new location. Also, to let you know, with some of the character-specific stuff, and actually, this is a great time to talk about this too. I have all this board stuff, and I want to get rid of it. All you gotta do is highlight over it, just like what you're trying to do like with a normal cursor when you're highlighting over something. Just hit backspace. Now, it's not going to delete everything. Certain things aren't going to be available from the get-go. What you'll need to do is right-click on some of these, and then you'll need to click delete on them. So let's say if I want to get rid of Prince John's book right here, as well as the power token, I just need to right-click on all this stuff, and then it will go away. Now, the reason why this stuff doesn't go away easily is because, if you'll notice, in this toggle portion right here, there's a lock. By default, so if you go over here, you'll see that the power token, I can't click on it and drag it around. But by unlocking it, I now can actually move the power token around to different locations and such, which is pretty useful. And I'll go ahead and delete that. Oh, there we go. Let's talk about some of the unique characters really fast, as to kind of go over some of their stuff. Ratigan's pretty simple. His tile is already on his space, so all you gotta do is just flip it around. Characters like Mother Gothel, if I can actually drag it out to show. Mother Gothel's Rapunzel token is already there by default. There is no other unique mechanics with it, but also there's the trust counter as well, so you don't have to worry about placing trust on Mother Gothel herself. You can just simply count up the trust using this counter right here, which is pretty nifty. With Pete and Cruella, since they're probably the other ones we should point out, Pete's goals right here, this is also considered a bag. What you'll need to do is that you'll need to right-click on the bag and then click Shuffle really fast. Once you've done that, then you could drag out the tokens and then place them on their locations. And these also act like flippers. So once you have the goal completed and flip it, it works out perfectly. With Cruella, it's kind of the same similar thing with Pete with the bag, where this little tile right here acts as the bag of puppy tokens. You'll need to right-click it and shuffle it. And then once you've done that, you could drag out the puppy tokens and they'll be randomized. And same thing too, the tokens themselves can be flipped over. So when you need to flip them, just hit the F key and you'll be good to go. And that is essentially all the big hitters, I would say, with the mod and how to play the game. The last thing I'll tell you to do, and this is kind of a courtesy thing, is that, so only I'm in this room right now, but when other players join in, you'll see their names pop up here as well. What you'll want to do is that you'll want to click on their name, and there'll be a little thing called Promote. What Promote will allow them to do is it'll allow them to basically delete their objects and stuff. So by default, they won't be able to delete things once they jump in the room. You personally will have to delete it. But by doing that, it's just going to make moving your games a lot simpler, moving it around. If for some reason you kind of forget how to do that, you can easily just go up to Games and just click on Villainous again, and you'll notice what's going to happen is that it's going to reload the entire game. itself. So all of those boards and stuff are going to basically be gone. And it's going to reset like I have never even touched this. And there you go. That is essentially how to play Disney Villainous through Tabletop Simulator. I hope this was useful, and if you ever have any questions, post them in the comments below in this video, and hopefully I can hit you up on Discord to answer anything else. So hopefully this was useful.